Ellie.
Hey, Soph, your voice is a bit low.
Oh, is it a bit low? Okay. We've got like the professional setup by Zen today, so we'll leave it to sort it out.
Hardly professional.
Oh, very much so.
Very amateur.
How about now? Is it still
No
low?
different.
No different.
Let me try something else.
Okay.
Is it a different setup?
What happened? Somebody online.
How about now? Is this better?
But the microphone.
Because your voice can be low, but frequently the people online voices come over and very loud.
Yeah, you're quite loud, Bill.
Hey Bill, can you hear us okay? Hey Bill, how about now?
I can hear you quite well, Bante. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Is that you? Yeah.
Bate, can you
I hope
speak?
it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Perfect. Let's try.
Oh,
my-
you guys got a screen over there too. Oh. And one
How
there.
about here?
That's Zen's voice. It sounds like Zen.
Zen is here in person.
Is it possible to put it on any screen? The people's faces?
How about now? Oh.
Because this one would be real
Yeah,
convenient.
we can look at it.
Can everyone hear me now?
Right, yes, that's better.
Oh, perfect.
You can
Okay,
switch and use
good.
it here,
Thank
and
you.
you can
Thank
see
you.
that switch.
Oh, it's a little easier with some neck issues I've got.
Oh, okay. So that's the okay. Hi everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hello. Yes. It's wonderful to see all of you here.
Does that one work too, Zen? People go on that one? They seem to be on that one and this one and this one.
Yeah.
No.
We haven't
It doesn't
figured
work.
out this
Oh, okay.
in person.
Okay.
Like,
Okay, let me see it.
Network system.
We'll get it. There we go. Okay, I can see people over there.
Yay. Hello everyone. So welcome, happy Wednesday, and welcome to our. I'll start recording actually. Make sure.
So I already started.
Oh, you've already started. Thank you, Eugene. So happy Wednesday. Welcome to our Wednesday wellness session where we invite teachers from around the world and from different traditions to come and meditate with us. They will share their tips on how to meditate, and it's also an opportunity where you can ask any questions you have about your own practice. As we know, when we go through our practice, it's quite lonely. If you do it by yourself, you may face difficulties. So this is a safe forum where you can ask any questions you may have. Today we have Bante joining us in person. Wow, I'm actually so excited. Bante Jo was here almost like a year ago, and he's back again with us, and I'm so excited for this session today. We get to meditate together and also hear what Bante Jo has to share with us. So as always, this session you get to develop a daily meditation practice, explore and choose an appropriate meditation topic and understand the basic theory behind the development of mind. And a bit about Bante Jo, he was born in 1983, London, and he was first interested in business and computers with no thought of a spiritual path. But in high school, a book jokingly given to him introduced the Four Noble Truths. That sparked his interest in Buddhism and leading him to the Toronto Zen Buddhist Temple. He trained part-time to become a priest and began full-time training in 2006, but later felt drawn to the Theravada Buddhism and the Thai forest tradition. After attending a retreat with Ajahn Viradhammo in 2007, he joined the Tisarana Buddhist monastery, ordaining as an Anagarika in 2008 and as a bhikkhu in 2010. Bante trained at Tisarana until 2015, later spending time in Thailand, California, and Toronto before moving to Sri Lanka in 2019, where he now resides. As always, this session will be interactive, so if you have any questions throughout the session, you may pop your questions in the chat, or you can put your virtual hand up to ask your question, and for those in person, you can put your hand up. The structure will be, we'll do a bit of meditation, and a bit of a talk, and a bit of Q&A. If we get a chance, we'll do a second round of that. But as you all know, this session is quite free-flowing, so we'll see how we go along. we can freestyle as we go. And this session will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. And without further ado, pass over to you, Bhante.
Sure. So I think we all, where should I look? There's a lot of options. I can look behind, to the right. So I think we all know each other fairly well. I mean, we've meditated together, Nikki and Simran and Bill and Mike. Edie, we've meditated together. Ellie and Dylan, have we meditated together before?
A few years ago.
A few years ago?
Last time you were in Australia, yeah.
Oh, okay. You guys done a lot of meditation before? Because I was told this is a beginner's course, but I'm seeing a lot of experienced people.
I'm new to you, Bhante, but I've done some meditation before.
Okay, just some. Okay. Okay, so I'm rolling the dice on whether or not to do a special Asubha Kamatana, if everybody's experienced. But I think what we'll start with is just some breath meditation in that case. So how much meditation have you done before, Dylan and Ellie? You guys have a daily practice? You've been on a lot of retreats?
I'd say I'm a beginner.
You're a
Been doing
beginner?
it
Oh,
a few
okay.
years, but only very beginner level.
Okay, and how about you, Dylan?
Also, quite a few years, but I haven't done extended retreats. So just day retreats and things like that.
Okay, okay. So this is a beginner's course. So let's go for some breath meditation to start off. So about 15 minutes. So I think many of you guys here have heard my instructions on breath meditation different times, but for those who are beginners, one of the really important things to know about meditation is that in order to develop it well, you have to learn to play with perceptions. So there's this really interesting quote in the Dhammapada, which actually goes a lot further than one might think. So it says, mind is the forerunner, all things are led by mind, created by mind. I should look in this one, right? Speaker act with a pure mind, and happiness follows you like your shadow unshakable. And also has a reverse. So the interesting thing there is when the Buddha says mind is the forerunner of all phenomenon, the word for phenomenon there is Dhamma. And Dhamma can either mean a mental phenomenon or it can mean anything, any type of phenomenon. So what the Buddha is pointing to there is that in a large extent, we build our world, and we create the world that we inhabit through our perceptions. A lot of it comes through our perceptions. And we can manipulate it, right? I mean, I move the chairs around here. I'm running this session, so I got to move the honcho chair to an unusual spot. It's usually in one of these two spots. But you can manipulate physical things in this way. But by far the more important way in which we affect our worlds in terms of our happiness has to do with the way that we manipulate our world mentally. So the purpose of our meditation is actually to become happy. I mean, I was talking with somebody about this the other day, or just yesterday, a fellow asked me the question, he's like, what do you think the purpose of life is? To become happy. Anyways, the purpose for which we meditate is to become happy. There's no other reason that we meditate other than to become happy. There's no other reason that we do anything else other than to become happy. And so what we want to learn to do is to build our world in such a way that it makes us happy. So it's important to understand that when we come to meditate, especially as a beginner, or even as an experienced person, we're not looking for like an experience of like ultimate reality. We're not looking to, have like a oneness with emptiness or whatever it is. Anything that we do, anything that we experience, we have to evaluate it in terms of whether it actually makes us happy or not. Is this thing making me happier, or is it making me more unhappy? I mean, this is a way in which we evaluate these things. So because mind is the forerunner of all these things, when we're practicing breath meditation, one of the important things to understand, we're going to start with just watching the breath come in, watching the breath go out. Right there when we make a decision to watch the breath coming in and watch the breath going out, we're already deciding to manipulate our world. We're already choosing to become equanimous and just watch the breath go in and go out. And this is a training for our mind. When we train our minds to just watch the breath and not really do anything about it, what we're actually training it to do is not to react to external phenomena. Usually what the mind does is it runs to the right, runs to the left, runs to the front, runs to the back. And we don't rein it in sometimes. Kind of, you want a bag of Cheetos is there, and there you go. There was one time somebody came to a meditation session, and they admitted to me that their screen was black, and then they came on after their screen was black, and they're like, yeah, I saw this food, and I just started eating it. It was it was a Zoom session. I was like, whoa, we were supposed to be meditating at that time. Anyway, I can't police the Zoom sessions, but that's the kind of thing that happens. And so if we usually allow our minds to run out to things, into the front, to the back, wherever it feels like, then what happens is when those things change, we really suffer because of it. So what we learn to do when we're meditating is to train our minds to hold perceptions in mind. Now, this is a perception we're holding in mind right here. We're just watching the breath. That's important to know. We're not connecting with an unconditioned reality. We're creating a perception. We're holding it in mind. Now, you might have heard this word before, mindfulness, right? It's like a really very famous word. So in the Buddhist terminology, mindfulness means the ability to take something and keep it in mind. And in meditation, what we learn to do is to choose different things to keep in mind so that we can manipulate our perceptions in such a way that it makes us happy. Doesn't make us sad or upset. So when we notice something that comes into our mind that is causing us to suffer, we're anxious, we're angry, whatever it is, we want the Cheetos, there's perceptions that we can hold in mind to stop ourselves from doing things that we know might be pleasant right now, but down the line are going to cause a lot of suffering. So this is one of the basic, really important things about meditation. Number one, it's basically about perceptions. We're training the mind to perceive the world in a particular way and to build our world in a way. Another thing is that it's about being able to make choices that bring us long-term happiness rather than short-term happiness. Sounds pretty simple. It's hard to do. So let's get in there. We'll do about 15 minutes of meditation. And we'll just do, at first, a couple of perception exercises with watching the breath. And the goal here is to try to be able to stay with the breath, not have the mind run off to the past, not run off to the future. Just be with the breath as it comes in, as it turns around from the in-breath to the out-breath, all the way through the out-breath, and it turns back to the in-breath again. And there's different ways you can work with the perception to make that easier to do. So we'll maybe just try like one or two, because it's 15 minutes. So we can sit up straight, look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And we can focus in on the breath. Can know when it's coming in. Oh. And know when it's going out. If we breathe in a long breath, can just know I'm breathing in a long breath. And if we breathe in a short breath, can just know I'm breathing in a short breath. And we can focus on the breath at the tip of the nose. And we can take a good long deep in-breath. letting the breath fill up the lungs, expand the body. And on the out-breath, we can let the whole body relax. And a second time, we can take a good, long, deep in-breath. Letting the breath fill up the lungs, fill up the body. And as we breathe out, we can let the whole body relax. And a third time, can take a deep in-breath. A third time, let the body relax. And we can watch the breath at the tip of the nose. And as we're watching the breath at the tip of the nose, we can keep the perception in mind of being a bit like a post in the sea. And water comes up over the post, the waves come up over the post and onto the beach. And then wash back down into the sea. But the post remains where it is. And in a similar way, we can let the mind be still. Watching the breath as it comes in. And watching the breath as it goes out.
It's exciting.
We can try to manipulate our perception a bit. As we're breathing in and out, we can focus on whatever aspect of the breath seems beautiful. Seems comfortable. And let that grow in our perception. And we can open our eyes. We could promise 15 minutes meditation, right? Is that right?
Yeah. 15 is good.
What's the amount?
Oh, 15 is good.
Is it? Okay. Okay. Then a talk, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How long is the talk?
15 is good.
15 minutes?
And then with a Q&A.
Okay. Okay. So I'm also new to this format, as everybody can see.
Do very well so far.
Well, setting a 15-minute timer is within my training. Okay, so we'll do a short reflection on the Dhamma. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So years ago, I used to live at a Korean Zen temple in the Toronto area. And I ate a lot of kimchi, that was one thing. But another thing was that they had actually an impressive emphasis on meditation. So at the time, I was looking for a place to meditate. I was a young man, but none of the Theravada temples that I was able to see had meditation programs. Now, many of them do. So I went there, and the teacher was very, very kind of strict and very direct. And one of the teachings that he gave was this teaching about dogs and tigers. So he said, he'd give this teaching very often. He'd say, if you throw rocks at a dog, it runs after the rocks. And he says, if you throw rocks at a tiger, it runs after whoever's throwing the rocks. So the point there that he was trying to make was that in a person's meditation, they should go straight for the source of what it is that's causing them to suffer, and look straight to the source of what it is that's causing them to be happy. Now, we can look at this source in many different ways, but one way that can be practical is to break it up into both the body and the mind. Oftentimes, the body's actually overlooked in terms of its role in causing us happiness, causing us suffering. And the mind is given emphasis. But our role in shaping our reality is sometimes not emphasized enough. So what you sometimes find when people approach meditation is that they go to meditate and they're looking for a particular experience or set of experiences in order to validate that they're on the right path, in order to show them that they're progressing well, and in order to give them some confidence that this path is working. So it could be something like they look for a light. I kind of want to see a light in their meditation. Some people see them. That's all right. It could be that they want to have some particular experience with seeing moments appear almost like they are a camera shutter, and this is a particular experience. It could be that they want the whole world to disappear and be enveloped in bliss. And it's not that these experiences are things that you want to avoid necessarily. It's that they have to be judged in terms of their source. So when we speak about a source, what is the source that we're looking for here? The source is our goal in our meditation, which is to train our minds to be happy. It's kind of seems like a very simple goal, but often that goal is overlooked. And if that goal gets overlooked, when that question gets put to the side, then what can happen instead is people chase after stones. They don't know that they're looking for happiness, so they may chase after a light. I want the light, right? Or they don't know, they're not necessarily explicit they're looking for happiness, so they may chase after the shutter effect when they're meditating. Or they may chase after a jhana, which is they're not necessarily bad things to chase after. Most of the time people chase after Cheetos, they're chased after like cars and these kind of things. And these are chasing the stones that our suffering is throwing at us. Suffering throws this stone at us. We run after it, and we get to the stone, it's already landed. By that time another stone is getting thrown. So when we go to the source, what it means is that we learn to evaluate what we do and the effects that we get in terms of whether or not it's giving us happiness, a happiness that we're looking for. And to do this well, we can't just look and see whether it gives an immediate hit of pleasure, because that's what Cheetos do. When you get the Cheetos, you feel happy a little bit, but an hour or two later, I think I've told people this story before, they had this, when I was young, they had this Toonie Tuesdays at KFC. And, you know, I would go months without eating KFC. And then all of a sudden this craving would start to arise in my mind, like, KFC, that should be really, really tasty. I can't wait. And then the Tuesday would be coming, and I was a young guy, I was a student, so $2 for a full meal of chicken sounds all right. So I'd be building up this craving, and it seemed like the very best thing I could have. And then Toonie Tuesday would come, and I'd go and buy the chicken, and I'd eat it, and I would feel horrible. Like after eating it, it's just like, like my body would just feel terrible. And then months would go by, and I'd start thinking, that chicken might be okay. It's pretty tasty. And so when we chase after the stones, it can be like this. There's actually something in chasing after things that are external to us that give this immediate hit of pleasure that's dependent on their opposite. Because it's dependent on their opposite, when we don't have it, it becomes more attractive. And this is the way that almost anything in the sensual world works. In order for something that we consume with our senses to be palatable to us, to be attractive to us, in general, we can't have it. Or we have to have not had it for a long time. So this is something called the law of diminishing returns, and you know about that in economics. Probably know about it a lot of other places. The more of something you consume, the less pleasurable it gets. And what that means is you've got to chase another stone. Throw another stone. Okay, the KFC wasn't good, so what do I need next? Another movie or another whatever it might be. And running this way, a person is always running after stones. It can also be this way in meditation if we're not careful. Okay? These habits can creep into our mind that are unspoken in terms of what kind of progress have other people had, what experiences have they had, and I want that experience too. There's this innate human tendency to want to rank oneself in whatever situation a human is in. It always comes out that way. Actually, living in Sri Lanka, the ranking systems are really different than in the West. And the West is kind of based on jobs. So I mean, I figure it's going to be based on your job wherever you go. There, it's based on birth to a certain extent. Your family or like where you were born, and that has a huge effect on your job. So I mean, your birth is a big deal there. Okay, you're born a particular family, then that's a good thing. And there's this innate desire to rank oneself vis-a-vis other people, because people get so much of the reality that they create from other people. So when we come to meditation, especially if we're first starting, then these are things that can creep into the mind and can affect the way that we practice, affect the way that we meditate, such that we hear another person saw a light. Well, I want to see a light too. And if they've seen a light, we haven't seen a light. And we figure that they're a better meditator than we are. But when we go back to the source, learn to behave like a tiger, we learn not to evaluate these things that occur in our life in the same way that people in the world evaluate them. We don't evaluate the KFC by whether or not we perceive it to be tasty. We evaluate it by what kind of effect it gave us when we ate it. We don't evaluate the light, if a light shows up in our meditation, by whether or not it's shown up and whether or not another person has necessarily added value to the light or not. We evaluate it by the effect that it has on our mind, the effect that it has on our world. And this is one of the ways in which we can contemplate our meditation as something that's going to the source of what it is that makes us happy, going to the source of what it is that causes us to suffer. Now, these things are not always as easy to evaluate as one might think. And so it requires a certain amount of sensitivity. And that sensitivity is heightened when the mind becomes quiet. So there's one person I knew, and I know them very well actually, which is why I spent a lot of time helping them, trying to help them in meditation and other things. And they came down with like a really severe, you could call it like depression, something like this. And it wasn't possible, they were getting worse, and because of my relationship with them, I had to help. So after 3 or 4 years, after 1 year, the most severe symptoms that they had fell away. And after 3 or 4 years, most of their symptoms had disappeared. And they weren't on any medication, weren't going to counseling. And even the doctor was like, how did you do that? Go to see the doctor. Usually that's something that lasts for life. I mean, as a monk, taking the Buddha's teachings, I could see I was kind of forcing them to meditate. And it had a really good effect on their mind. And then I was arguing with them when they say things that were strange perceptions that were negative about their life and their world. I would argue with it. I wouldn't let it pass and let that become part of my world. I would say, that's wrong, and here's the reason it was wrong. This is just normal Buddhism. The interesting thing about that whole process was that person, although it had the strongest effect on them, could not see it. Could not see what it was that caused this change. People at their work would comment, "Oh, you're much better, you're doing great." I can't notice anything. How do you not notice anything? They couldn't notice it. And this is part of the reason why people find it difficult to make decisions, to train their minds in such a way that they actually become happy. Oftentimes the things that are truly beneficial for us, again, don't show up like a bag of Cheetos. They start small. And because they start small, one has to be sensitive to notice their growth. It's like planting a little seed. You plant a seed in the ground and you're watering it. Well, it might not shoot up right away. But if you're a skilled farmer, you might see the signs that the seed is growing well and that it's healthy, and what it needs is protection, what it needs is water, it needs sunlight, and it needs care. And if it's given these things, then it will grow into something strong. Now, many of the qualities that exist in our mind that we're trying to cultivate operate on this same principle. They don't show up ready-made. They start small as a potential, and they grow into something large if we nurture them. So this practice that we just did of watching our breath and trying to make the mind stay with the breath, what that actually tends to do is it makes the mind quiet. And when the mind is quiet, it can see these relationships more clearly. So it's really important to know that meditation is not just a technique. What we're learning to do here is something very important. We're learning to see cause and effect and put the causes into place that will make us happy. So everybody, when they meditate, has a different set of characteristics that come into their mind, a different mind essentially. And so the things that come into a person's mind that cause them to suffer, cause them to be happy, will differ from person to person. For some people, it could be that they're getting angry very easily. Other people, it could be that they're very attractive to nice-looking things. And for other people, it could be they're very attracted to members of the opposite sex. That is something that also comes up. There's many different things that people can desire that are external to them that cause them suffering. And the ways in which these things cause people to suffer are very, very different and very, very subtle. I was actually talking to a guy, messaging with a gentleman. When you start kind of talking with people about meditation, it's actually very interesting. It's kind of an interesting life to be a monk sometimes, because there's all kinds of things that happen to people that are not in the books. I mean, the Buddha mentions them, but he, being the skilled teacher he is, he mentions them as a category very often, because the number of things you can experience underneath a category is just immense. So there's this gentleman I've been messaging with, and he stayed with me for a little bit. And he decided he really wanted to take on a precept regarding celibacy. So I mean, it's pretty hardcore. He's a layman. And recently we were just kind of messaging back and forth. He kind of had this unusual thing happen in his meditation where he was kind of being celibate for a while, then I think he got a girlfriend or something. I don't know. I didn't get all the details. But what's happening in his meditation is that when somebody gets attracted to him or compliments him, he breaks out in this full body sweat and gets this blushing and things. He's like, I never had that happen before. What's going on? Other people, sometimes when they come to meditate, first start meditating, it's actually very common for monks. Everything's going well, very inspired to come and ordain, and they come and ordain, and immediately they come down with severe stomach issues. And then some of them disrobe. When they disrobe, their stomach issues go away. So where's that coming from? What's that about? What this means is that the ways in which the mind can operate that cause a person to suffer can be quite subtle, can be quite unusual. And some of the things, the happinesses and sufferings that a person experiences in their meditation have no name. And what kind of name could I give to the phenomenon that fellow described? There's not a medical name for it. And it's a real phenomenon. It's happening to him. So for us to become skilled meditators, we have to learn to become sensitive to the subtleties that exist in our minds, because the problems that arise in our meditation may be problems when we talk to all kinds of people, we're the only ones who've experienced it. I'm kind of talking, he asked me, he's like, do you know anybody who's experienced this? I'm like, no. Anybody else? You ever heard of that? No, I've never heard of it. And you've got to ask questions to try to determine what's the cause. Well, if you have a girlfriend for a long time, does it go away? Well, if it does, then it's a sign that maybe it's something to do with novelty. If not, so you kind of investigate in this way. And at the end of the day, this is our own responsibility. So when we learn to behave and we learn to meditate in such a way that we can pay attention to these types of subtleties, that's when we learn to become more and more skilled in directing the mind in ways that are truly meaningful. Because it's often in these very unusual ways, these ways which a person will not describe, which they won't vocalize, and which they're afraid might sound strange, these are sometimes the most poignant things that cause a person to suffer in their life and in their meditation. Sometimes they're pushed into the background, and sometimes they come up. One doesn't know how to deal with them. So when we have this as our litmus test, what is it that I'm doing that's making me happy? What is it that I'm doing that's causing me to suffer? Then we learn to notice these very small things that we do that have the potential to grow into larger and stronger and more beneficial, say trees, plants, and bear fruit. When we get this sensitivity to cause and effect, then it becomes much easier for us to solve the problems that are causing us to suffer and to grow the things that will make us happy. And this is another way in which we can conceive of our meditation as something which aims at the source rather than aims at the stones that are thrown, and become like a tiger rather than become like a dog. Another important element which is often overlooked, and this is a kind of beginner's class, but still important to talk about it, even if people don't want to take it on right now, is that the mind is an important component. It's the chief, but right underneath that is an enormous lieutenant, and that lieutenant is the body. A person's body is the focus point. It's the locus point of any type of happiness or suffering that they get through the senses. It's based on their body, and the body is often overlooked, like this screen in the background. So if we want to cut off the suffering that we have for anything that's external to us, the source of that is the body. Ultimately, it's the mind, but the source of it is our attachment to the body. There is no type of external happiness or suffering that is not possible to eliminate by eliminating our attachment to our body. Now, this is something that many people don't want to look at, because in the West, or anywhere, right? Not just the West, kind of everywhere. Anywhere you go, when you ask somebody, generally when you ask somebody, oh, what about so-and-so, this person? I mean, what comes up? An image of their face, an image of their body. I mean, change the body, change the face. It's not the same person to these people, right? Actually, another thing, I was reading this article. Maybe I was listening to something. I can't remember where I heard this anyway. But, it was a book. I think it was a book. And they were talking about this study that they did where they went through a high school yearbook, and they selected all the most beautiful people in this high school yearbook. And it was an old yearbook, so they could do this test. And they kind of divided it out. They got a bunch of people to decide who are the most beautiful people. Divided those people out. Then they tracked all these people down. And they tracked down the other people in the yearbook too, and they compared their incomes. And the people who were considered beautiful had a 15% higher income on average. It's called the beauty dividend. So what that means is that living in the world, being attracted to Cheetos, being attracted to KFC, being attracted to cars and houses, there's a huge dividend for taking care of the body to get these things. So it exists in the background. It exists as an unspoken idea of who we are, and it exists as an unspoken good in terms of its utility in giving us what we want. The trouble with all of this is that almost all of our suffering comes from the body in terms of its external things too. When you talk to people who lose their ability to get some external thing, well, All of that has to do with their ability to contact it with their body, to contact it with their eyes or their ears or their nose or their tongue. If they can't contact what they want with their body, then they suffer. So if we want to go to the source in terms of pulling our mind away from what causes it to suffer, we can't overlook our relationship with our body, our attachment to our body, and also some of the strange and unusual delusions that exist around the body. There's something really strange about the body as well, in that when stuff is on the body, it's very attractive to people. And I've got my hair here, it's right there on my head. It's not as much as it used to be, but it's still there. And I've got kind of, teeth and these kind of things. I've got spit in my mouth. If it's inside my mouth, it's not disgusting. If it's outside of my mouth, I don't want to touch it. My hair falls off of my head, and it's on the floor. I sweep it up, and if I pick it, it's like, oh, okay, kind of throwing it to the side. So what's going on there? There's a fundamental delusion there that's hiding some of the truths about what causes us to suffer and causes us to be happy. So when we learn to go to the source for both our body and our mind, when we try to learn to train our mind to be happy, we have to understand that one of the biggest things that we're up against is delusion. When we think about delusion as a lack of information, but actually what delusion is, it's generally our desire not to see. Our desire not to see what it is that truly causes us to suffer, what it is that truly causes us to be happy. Because there's consequences to these things. So as we learn to keep our mind with our breath, just keeping it there in the present moment, when the past and the future fall away, our mind becomes more peaceful. And this is not dependent on KFC. It's not dependent on a car. It's not dependent on a house. And it's not dependent on how much people like us. It's dependent on our ability to stay in the present moment. And so this is a very important skill, because when we have this peace of mind, then we can look at the KFC and see whether we're really fooling ourselves when that craving comes up again a couple months later. Oh, that was pretty tasty. And maybe like another Toonie Tuesday meal. Don't want to see it, don't want to think about the last 5 months. Never mind, it's probably going to be different this time. That was actually kind of the unspoken thing that was probably in the back of my head. Oh, this time might be different, or it's good, I'll just indulge. So that kind of delusion is one of the fundamental things behind what causes us to suffer. So if we want to go to the source, then we have to be prepared to really look at what it is that causes us to suffer and causes us to be happy. And one of the things that sometimes people don't want to see is what really causes us to suffer are things that we like. It's the things that we like that cause us to suffer. It's very hard to see that, very difficult to see that, like somebody who's in love with their partner, and a good friend comes and says, look, your partner's cheating on you. You don't want to suffer. I mean, money's missing from your bank account, like you're suspicious, all these bad things are happening. Your partner's cheating on you, you should break up with them. No, I love my partner, I'm not breaking up with him. So that person eventually starts to get suspicious and starts to follow their partner around, and eventually is able to confirm that that's the case. And when they do that, then dispassion sets in. And then no matter what happens to their partner, if their partner leaves them, if they come or if they go, they don't suffer because of that. So this is actually ultimately what can cause us to be happy. If we develop dispassion for things, such that whether they rise, such that whether they fall, we remain unaffected. We remain separated. We remain an island unto ourselves. So all of this starts small. It starts small with watching the breath for whoever wants to practice. It starts small with noticing cause and effect. But like a fruit tree, like a tree or a plant that's well watered, that's given sunshine, that's cared for, when it ripens in dispassion. And dispassion, when the mind separates from the things that causes it to suffer, is freedom. It's the freedom that we're looking for. It's the purpose for which we do everything, is to find happiness. This happiness that exists, that nobody can take away from us, that makes us an island unto ourselves, a refuge unto ourselves that makes us something that suffering can't overwhelm. Okay? Leave that for reflection. I think I went over my 15 minutes. That was 25 minutes. So
That was perfect. It was
we
amazing.
can I still got time for another meditation because it was short. But if anybody has any questions,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be great, I feel like. Yeah. Actually, we already have questions. Lots of,
Great.
Oh, sorry. Am I supposed to? Yeah, I think I am. We already have lots of really great questions. We've got first, Eddie, I think, posted first. He asks, talking about partner, how can one crush that craving, Bhante? This is like a big one.
well, the classic topic is a subhakamatana. So that's the perception of the foulness of the body. Actually, there's that one guy was telling. Well, one guy was telling me was kind of he fell in love with, like people say they fell in love with somebody beautiful. So he had this kind of like beautiful person he fell in love with. If that person was just like their liver, then you wouldn't fall in love with it. Kind of just looking at the liver is not really something that you're going to be that enamored with. And yet there it is. The liver's right there in the body. So that's another fundamental thing. It's like, really I'm in love with this person. Okay, but take off all of their skin and expose internal organs, and it's going to take a pretty devoted partner to still be in love with that. And that's where it is. It's all there. Everybody's got it. So for a person to overcome their desire for their own body and their desire for other people's bodies, they have to look at the internal components of the body and then compare it to the perception. Why is it that I'm so attracted to my own body, other people's bodies, when it's this way? I mean, I can't stand my own spit, can't stand my hair, right? I can't stand these things, and yet I'm attracted. So one has to investigate in that way.
Great question, Eddie, and hope that helps you. If you have follow-up questions, please let us know.
That's not a beginner's practice.
Eddie's no longer a beginner. He's
Oh, right. Yeah, Eddie's. Yeah.
regularly,
This
so-
is the kind of.
Maybe next time. Yeah, one of the sessions we can do that. Simran, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, hello, Bhante.
Hello.
What you were saying towards the end about how we've got the body, like the big lieutenant, I feel like that's what I'm really discovering in my practice now, because my question is in relation about how to balance, like, cultivating the mind with also meeting the needs of the body, because I feel like it's so easy, well, at least for me personally, I feel like when I'm meditating, or if I get really into deep meditation, I feel like, because I don't know, like my like all the senses of my body kind of just like, I don't know, I can't feel anything or something, and then I feel like I start to neglect the needs of my body, and it gets like, for me personally, I'm someone who gets into extremes, like I go from one extreme to the other, and so like I neglect my body very badly, and it causes a lot of problems. Anyways, long story short, but now because I'm having to meet the physical needs of my body, and it's constantly 24/7, when doctors, all these things, and now I can't really meditate much because it's hard for me to like stay still, and I don't know how to balance meditating with also meeting the needs of the body, because I feel like when I try to meditate, and then sometimes a need for the body comes up, and I feel like, oh, if I neglect that, then I'm not doing good for my body. So I don't know what to do with that.
Oh, okay. So, well, I mean, we want to take care of our bodies, but my understanding, it sounds like you're doing a lot of running around and visiting doctors, and that's making it hard to meditate. Is that right?
Yes, but also just even when I'm sitting still, my body's like just very on edge, and we're going through a lot of processes through medicine and all that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. So, so that's one of the really unusual things, actually, is that like calm in meditation is much easier for people to achieve if they have a healthy body. If their body's unhealthy, then it becomes difficult to make the mind calm by focusing on a single object. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means that it's spotty and it can easily get pulled away. So it's important not to have making the mind calm, as in developing like states of calm in the mind, as the only approach to meditation that one has. One can also take pain as an object. I mean, it was meant to be like a beginning session. I don't know if all the people are going to jump. One can also take like pain as a meditation object. One can take the body as a meditation object. One can take death as a meditation object, and not in a way that's kind of making you depressed, but you can, no matter whether the body is agitated or not, you can turn the mind to vipassana. You can turn the mind to investigation. And that's much more active. So especially if it's a painful feeling, then one of the things that we're always trying to do in vipassana is to evaluate whether the perceptions that we have are real or not in terms of what's causing us to suffer. So we often take pain as like this block. I would think it's like, oh, my knee is in pain, right? Or my back is in pain, whatever it might be. So whenever we have this perception that comes into our mind that's saying, I'm in pain, I'm suffering because of this, then we learn to challenge it. So if it's pain, you can send your mind into the physical part of the body that you think is in pain. For example, if it's like my knee is in pain, actually send your awareness into the flesh and the tendons of the knee. And one of the really unusual things, there's no pain there. It's just, you feel the knee. So it's like, where is it? So then send it to where the pain seems to be. And you find is that this pain, you can find as this pain is basically shifting all the time. It's not a solid block. It shifts from one place to another. But in our mind and our perception, we put the whole thing together as a solid block. And that's the way the mind's working all the time. So when you send it out to investigate there, sometimes it'll be in the knee and it'll shift. It might shift up to your leg or might shift to your stomach. So follow it and see where it goes. This is another application of mindfulness. We're keeping the pain of our illness or whatever in mind and following this thing around and not letting it out of our sight. So you keep following it enough, sometimes the pain can just disappear. It's like, where was that? And what was it that caused it? Another thing that you can do when you're watching the pain is to compare, like actually it sounds strange to say, you can send your mind to look at your mind. Yeah? Kind of turn your mind back to look at the mind itself and see if that's in pain. I mean, also that's not in pain. So you can turn your mind to investigate in this way, and in this way you can separate your mind from the perceptions which are amplifying suffering. Because it's not necessarily just like pain is suffering, it's there. The perceptions that we have create this vicious cycle that amplifies it. Every time the mind twirls back and says something about it, it comes back and the pain is amplified, and it's amplified. So if you can learn to work with vipassana in this way, it can lessen the perception of pain, and it may also provide openings for you to then develop samatha, so long as these perceptions haven't gripped the mind.
Thank you, Bhante. And to what extent would you say that we should watch versus address it? For example, with hunger, pain, temperatures, all the things that might initially be uncomfortable, and then you sit with it. But to what extent would you sit with it versus just address it and do something about it?
Yeah, so basically it's generally better. Okay, it can be good to push a little bit if you're in a zone that's uncomfortable. It's generally better to stop rather than pushing too far. So what you'll do in those cases, again, this is another case in which a person is evaluating cause and effect. And one has to be very sensitive to evaluate this well, especially physically. So pushing yourself through some type of pain, whether sitting longer in meditation. So do it for a little bit, 10, 15 minutes, then stop, and see what effect it has on your body. One of the ways to see if it's getting worse is if you go to sit down again, and it starts from the same place and grows more. If that's happening, it can be a sign that you're actually going to injure yourself. If you feel this kind of pain or discomfort, you push it a little bit and you stop, and then it's like it wasn't even there at all. The next time you go to do it again, you're fine. It can be a good pointer that it's actually your mind and not something you have to worry so much in terms of damaging your body.
TH has asked a question, and then we'll go to you, Dylan. Could you please clarify why things we love cause us to suffer? I thought things that annoy us or harm us cause us to suffer. Are you okay?
Yep, that's okay. I'll be good. Yeah, I was smiling because there's actually a sutta about this. Like there's literally a sutta where somebody asked the Buddha the same question. As a monk, you like those because you don't have to think that much about you can quote the Buddha. So there's, oh, what happened here? I can't see where did everybody go?
Stop letting.
Looking at myself.
Yeah.
There we go. Gallery. Okay. Yeah. So there's a sutta where actually somebody comes to the Buddha and says this. So it was a man. His only son had passed away, and he went mad actually and was running around from place to place. And he eventually sees the Buddha. So he goes to the Buddha, and the Buddha says to him, you know, householder, your faculties are not like somebody who's in control of their faculties. And he said, how could it be? You know, my only son has died. Then the Buddha says, well, that's the way that it is. People, dear ones who endear themselves, bring sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So then that man disagrees with the Buddha. He doesn't agree with him, and he goes and sees some gamblers and says what happened to the gamblers. And the gamblers say, of course that's how it is. Dear ones who endear themselves bring happiness and joy. The Buddha's wrong. So this conversation reaches the palace.
Recording
and
stopped.
When it reaches the palace...
Recording in progress.
Recording stopped. And when it reaches the palace, Queen Mallika repeats it to King Pasenadi. And King Pasenadi says, have you heard... Or no, King Pasenadi, I think, hears it. Then he says to Queen Mallika, and Queen Mallika says, well, if the Buddha says that's how it is, then that's how it is. And then King Pasenadi gets angry, and he's like, get out of my sight. Whatever the Buddha says, you just agree with. The Pali Canon is, it's really accurate in the way that it records things. It doesn't really sugarcoat what goes on. So Mallika gets kicked out, and then she comes back to speak to King Pasenadi later and says, what do you think, great king, if there were to be change and alteration in, she has another wife, she lists that wife's name, I think. He says, would you suffer? And he says, yes, I would suffer. Change and alteration here means that they get sick or they die. He said, it's in that way that the Buddha says that dear ones who endear themselves bring suffering. And then she goes through a list. She asks, what about your son? What about me? Yes, Mallika, if you passed away, I would suffer. If change happened to you, I would suffer. Then the Buddha goes, then, she says, in that way, then you can understand that dear ones who endear themselves bring suffering. So this conversation makes its way back to the Buddha. And the Buddha says, that's how it is. Then he gives a number of different examples. He said, in this same Savatthi, there was a husband, or there was a mother or something who lost her son. As a result of losing her son, she went mad and wandered from street to street, asking, have you seen my son? Have you seen my son? Same thing happened to a father. And then even there was a case that the Buddha lists where there was a man who was married to a woman, and their parents wanted them to, that woman's parents wanted to separate her from her husband and give her to another man. So the man cut her in half and killed himself, thinking, we'll be together dead. And so the Buddha said, in that way you can understand that dear ones who endear themselves bring suffering. So essentially, it's not that that person is causing us to suffer, right? I mean, I talk to my mother. I meditate with my mother. I mean, talking to you guys, it's not like a terrible, horrible suffering just being here with with other people. But the problem with it is that we take them on as something dear. In other words, they become what we base our happiness on. We base our happiness on the presence of these people, on the way that they treat us, and as a result, any change in that causes us suffering. Any threat of change causes us immense worry. And so that's the meaning of it, that dear ones who endear themselves cause us to suffer. It's because we cling to them. Similarly, with things that we hate, that we don't like, that cause us to suffer. I mean, if I get punched in my face, there's pain there, and I'll be upset about it. The reason I'm really upset about it is because of my attachment to my body. Or somebody smashes up my car, and I'm upset because something bad's happened to my car. I'm suffering because I like my car. So it all comes from clinging. It all comes from endearment. If somebody who I don't even know dies, I won't be happy about that, but the degree of suffering that I experience compared to my own body gets smashed up and killed is completely different. Somebody else's car gets smashed up, I don't even know them, it's almost no suffering at all. So in this way you can see clearly that our endearment with things causes suffering.
And Tam said, thank you, Bante. Sounds like those who annoy us cause us suffering in life, and those we love cause us suffering in death. Thank you for your great answers, Bante. It's Tam.
Okay. Yeah, don't want this to go to like too much. I hope I thought it was going to be the beginner's thing. I don't want it to be off-putting for people. But let's go ahead. Keep asking.
Yeah, that's great. Question and answer sessions are always the best because we just get a lot of like interactions and people's queries get answered. Yeah, some of those are quite deep. We sometimes get quite deep as well. People ask quite personal questions too. So those
Okay,
are really
great. Okay.
Thank you, Bante. Oh, Dylan, did you have a question, or I see that?
Yes, thank you for the talk, Bante. I was just thinking, so you were emphasizing this connection between meditation and a capacity to observe cause and effect, and causes of suffering, causes of happiness. So I was just trying to figure out how that relates to, say, mindfulness when the object is the breath. So I was wondering, is it the case that through mindfulness with the breath we're fine-tuning our attention so that then when we're out of the meditation we start to notice those relationships, say, in our daily life, things that our mind is doing that causes suffering or happiness? Or is it that observation of cause and effect is happening during the meditation while we are watching the breath? Or is it both? I wonder if you could just speak to that connection a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good question. It would be both of those and more. So in trying to learn how to make your mind calm by watching the breath, right there you're observing cause and effect. And in learning about cause and effect that way, that habit carries over into when you leave meditation. You learn in other ways how things cause you to suffer, cause you to be happy, because you've already been tuning your mind to that. Another important way in which that helps you to see cause and effect is that if you focus on the breath in and of itself, then the mind becomes still. So quite often we don't see what's causing us to suffer or not because it's hidden in this kind of like maelstrom that's in the back of the mind. There's kind of, or even in the front of the mind, right? There's kind of just so much things, so many thoughts coming in and out of the mind that you can't really see where a particular cause came from. It's very difficult to see that. So I mean, in science, when they want to see cause and effect, they isolate a cause and effect and keep everything else the same, right? And it's because of that you can manipulate just one thing and then see what happens when everything else is still. It's much easier to see. So when we learn to meditate and focus on the breath or another topic that we're just taking it as a single object of focus, the mind starts to settle. You can kind of see this almost like the Buddhist simile is water in a bowl, and like having grains of things stirred up in a bowl, and they gradually start to settle to the bottom of the bowl. And then you can see right to the bottom, and the water becomes still. So you can notice this for yourself. When you learn to focus in on the breath, the mind becomes still, and as a result, what comes into it is much more clear. And it's kind of where it's coming from, how it came. So that's another way in which cause and effect becomes easier to see when one focuses on an object like the breath. The third way, which is also very important, and there may be others, I say these are the three that I can think of. The third way that can also be very important is that when we make our mind peaceful by watching the breath or feeling peaceful, practicing meditation, we become less threatened about seeing what is really causing us to suffer or causing us to be happy. Because actually, what obscures cause and effect is it's not just always that the mind's in a maelstrom, it's not that we can't see it. Sometimes it's that we don't want to see it. We don't want to see it, so we hide it from ourselves. So when the mind is peaceful, it's calm, it's at ease, it's in a much better position to see cause and effect relationships that we've been hiding from ourselves, but that if we tackle, we'll become much, much happier. So those three ways, your way was, what you mentioned is accurate. I'd also add those other two in there as important elements which can help people to see cause and effect.
Thank you, Bante. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bante. I also have a question.
Sure.
It's actually related to what you discussed at the beginning about perceptions, how we manipulate perceptions. Also in a previous talk, one time someone mentioned that arahants are the master of perceptions.
Could be.
Yeah, and And I just wanted to hear your view on what you mean by manipulating perceptions versus, kind of seeing reality as is with wisdom.
Right, good question. Really good question. So, essentially, everything that we do, whatever we do, whatever we're looking for is going to be based on an intention. And because it's based on an intention, and we're perceiving it in some way, we're evaluating it in some way, it's going to have an element that we're creating. That particular thing, that particular aspect of the world will have an element of our creation in it. So in other words, we're not observing like this pure world. And it's a really important point. Because if we don't have that point in mind, then we won't know what we're doing. And we won't know what to let go of. If we think that we've hit on an ultimate reality, that is one of the biggest stumbling blocks for advanced meditators. And many Kru Bhajans warn about it. Because at points in a person's meditation, they could come to things that are absolutely stunning, marvelous, beautiful, and amazing, beyond description. And yet, those things are not stable. And if we're searching for an ultimate reality and we come across something like this, the big danger is that we won't go beyond it. So, in terms of our perceptions and what we're doing with our perceptions, we are always cultivating perceptions and intentions unless we directly experience the deathless. And that is important for us to know in many different ways. But one of the biggest ways is that if we're searching for an ultimate reality, we don't necessarily have our aim pointed at the right place. Because we cultivate these perceptions and we manipulate reality for the sake of developing dispassion, actually. So if you have a very significant breakthrough in your practice, it's not going to be because you saw an ultimate reality. It's because you got dispassionate towards something that was causing you to suffer. That's what happens right before you may have a very big breakthrough. It's not that you get some view of the universe, it's that you see what you've been doing to cause yourself to suffer, and then the next moment, that thing falls away, not to arise again. When these kind of things happen, one of the things that can be confusing for people is if something like this happens, unusual knowledge usually arises at the same time. Some like unusual things, like that you wouldn't normally be able to remember, that you wouldn't normally be able to perceive. And so what can happen is that people take that as an indication of an ultimate reality. If they've heard a description like that, then they try to clone the experience. But that experience is not important, not really important in terms of like whatever special things happen that come along with it, or you can just you hear people describe these experiences, they're amazing to hear. But the description is not important. What's important is the dispassion. They became dispassionate, and that's why their fetters fell away. So if we're going to aim at the source, it's not what's ultimate reality, it's what's causing us to suffer. This is where the commentaries and the suttas butt up against each other. In the suttas, the Four Noble Truths are the elephant's footprint. In the commentaries, in the Atthakatha, we're trying to realize the truth of anicca, dukkha, anatta. Those are tools. They're not a reality we're looking for. We use them to develop dispassion, and that cuts our fetters. That's what we're looking for. So it's an important point. It's an important point. Not to deny that you're going to have really neat meditation experiences or whatever else it might be, or that they may be useful or whatever it might be, but it's just to focus on the source there, and the source is looking for what we're doing that causes us to suffer, because that's what will lead to the dispassion that stops it. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Because what you're talking about is sort of it's like cultivation of wholesome intentions and dispassion that leads us to the end of the road, rather than but that you would call the manipulation of perception. It originates from the right intention, and that is the very right intention that leads us towards dispassion. Is that kind of what you're
Yep.
saying?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. One of the important things to know about intention and perception in general is that sometimes the definitions of the words are quite clunky, but like what a person experiences in their meditation can be very subtle. Like we were just talking about with some of the problems, some of the experiences that a person has can be very powerful, and don't have proper language to describe them. Still, we would classify those underneath the rubric of perception and intention, essentially, unless you attain the state of neither perception nor non-perception. But still, intention was there to get you there. So that's what we're always looking at.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Thank you, Bhante. Singsi has made a comment. This is why some people convert to another religion. Example, I see Jesus in my vision, and this is real peace, or I see Buddha, God, etc.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like being aware that everything is a perception until you really get there, but you don't really know you really get there until you really don't see all the perception, even the amazing experiences that some people may experience.
Yeah, it requires this kind of pulling the mind back, because there's a tendency for the mind to go out and get absorbed in experience. So if we really want to become skilled meditators, we always have to pull our minds back and look at what we're doing. That's the important thing.
And that's a difficult thing, I think, when it's like sometimes that stops, it's like a balancing act, is it?
Yeah, well, that can stop you from developing states of calm, but you can think about it when you stop meditating and come out of the calm.
Thank you, Bhante. So we're at 8:25. I feel like maybe we can have more questions and
Sure.
Yeah?
Yep.
Does that
Mhm.
sound okay? Are there any questions in person? It's been a really interesting discussion so far. No? Any more questions online? We're all processing what we just discussed.
Yeah, okay, no problem. No problem. There was a lot of questions. Should we do some more meditation?
Yeah. Maybe we can finish off with the meditation.
Sure.
Sorry, I had a comment, more of a comment and a passing thought
Sure.
from all this talk about perceptions.
Uh-huh.
And it reminded me of the Chula Sunyata Sutta,
Mhm.
where one develops the perception of emptiness.
Right.
From very gross forms to the most subtlest, to the realm of the signless,
Mhm.
animita samadhi,
Mhm.
or neither perception or non-perception.
Mhm.
But the real breakthrough comes in the sutta, and the breakthrough comes, and I mean we can all read it in our own time,
Mhm.
but the real breakthrough comes when, and here I quote, that there is suffering due to the perceptions of all of these, and it is only this perception that is empty. And through that perception of emptiness, of all of these perceptions, that one breaks through to the unconditioned. So
Mhm.
you work on very gross perceptions
Mhm.
and perceive the anicca, dukkha, anatta, and emptiness of it,
Mhm.
all the way to nibbana.
Mhm.
But it was just a passing thought. So
No,
it was
it's
very,
good.
very interesting.
Yeah.
when I read that sutta, and it just sort of prompted my memory
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the talk on perception.
Yeah. Glad you quoted it. Yeah, that makes, yeah.
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 So.
I'm glad. I thought you were texting, so I thought,
no,
I talk must not have been.
But
That doesn't look
I wanted to be sure when I quoted it that I was quoting it in the right way.
Yeah, nice
And
quote.
Let me just quote.
Yeah, we
bunch
try
of-
to keep these sessions very beginner friendly, but somehow we often end up going into the quite deep realms.
Yeah, and I mean because we're also a non-sectarian. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if online.
They can't hear us. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because the mic's down
Yeah.
there. Yeah, yeah. So I'll leave Sophie to put into the chat the sutta,
Yeah,
which talks about perceptions and how one can deal with or work with perceptions
Nice.
all the way to the end of suffering.
Mm.
So
Which
I'll,
sutta?
Good idea.
I'll put it in. So it's called the Shorter Discourse on Emptiness, Majjhima Nikaya 121.
Majjhima.
Classic.
Yeah, it's very classic. I just thought I'd share that because it's.
Is that the one where Ananda, it starts with Ananda and he's putting up a sewing circle? Or is that the
Yes,
second
Ananda,
one?
yes,
Yeah?
yes, yes.
Okay.
It's really good. So I really recommended it.
Mhm.
It's a really good one. Sorry, I just wanted to share.
No,
I
glad you
didn't wanna hijack anything.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
glad you
much.
shared, yeah.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Mm.
Great. So, no questions? Going once?
Going once, going
I always
twice.
do that, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So Zen has shared a sutta with us, and it's in the chat. I guess it's about how we can use perception of emptiness to get to the end of the road. Yeah. So hope that it's this discussion about perception helps everyone to understand it a little bit more. Bhante, how would we use perception, like this understanding of perception in our everyday life, make it practical, or like in our work or relationships, and so on?
Well, it's probably going to have its most practical application in times when people are anxious, if we're talking about just working with it in daily life.
Yeah.
Anxiety tends to be fueled by perceptions, and those perceptions are often false, not 100% false, but often largely false and overplayed. And yet, when they prove themselves not to be true, another couple minutes later, another couple of days later, new one's up. A new perception comes up, and it's the same story again. So this process that we're talking about, where the mind deludes itself, where there's things it doesn't want to see and it covers itself up, in daily life, especially if you're working and doing various things, you may see this process play out most commonly with the emotion of anxiety. And you can see what perception you're holding in mind that causes the anxiety to grow and rise and not to stop. And then see if you can replace it with another one. And if you don't want to replace it with another one, then that's something to investigate. Like, why don't I want to change the perception that's causing me to be anxious? There can be all kinds of things going on in the mind there. So that can be a really good one to work with. It can show a lot about the way that delusion operates. And it can also have very practical effects, because anxiety is a really debilitating emotion, although a certain amount of fear is definitely reasonable. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Bhante. That's great. Yeah, it's like it just reminds me of what you just said, which is not falling into the perception, like that practice of not falling into the perception and be aware of it is so powerful, especially when anxiety or a very strong emotion comes in. It's like we automatically fall into it, but if we can practice like not and just look at it and look at cause and effect, it will be really powerful for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Good.
great.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bhante.
Yeah.
With that, we're at the end of the session
Sure.
at 8:30. I really appreciate you. I love seeing you in person, Bhante.
Oh, nice to
welcome
see everybody
back
here
to
in Australia. Great to be back in Australia.
So wonderful. This session was just so wonderful. It's such a good mix of really, really deep, profound teachings, but shared in a very simple way and also very practical way. I definitely have a few takeaways, including that very last one about anxiety and strong emotions, and how we can kind of like practice with that in our everyday life, and how that's really seamlessly connects with our meditation practice. And I hope, I'm sure all of us also have taken away lots of nuggets of gold. My partner messaged me because he's online. He's like, this talk is goated, which means like it's really awesome.
What is it? What's the word? Goated?
Goated. Actually, to be honest, I don't understand what goated means either, but I think it means it's great. That is so amazing.
Okay, well.
Greatest of all time.
Oh, the greatest of all time, yeah.
Well, I don't think that is not so claim.
Yes. So he privately chatted that to me. So yeah, I'm sure all of us have taken something away from this. Bhante will be here with us. Is it until the Metta convention?
Yeah, even after, to the 24th.
Till the 24th of November.
Yeah.
So
Not until just the Metta convention, after
oh,
the 23rd of November.
Yeah.
They will be here for quite a long time.
I'm feeling that way too. It's great being in Australia.
so wonderful. Yeah. So lucky to have Bhante here with us in person. So I encourage everyone to take the opportunity to join these sessions and meet Bhante in person. And yeah, it's very different when you're able to do that.
Oh, we had a bunch of YouTube live chats too. Okay, never mind. Oh, so I just should say sorry to everybody on YouTube. This is one of my first YouTube videos. I didn't even look at the live chat. There's the last message was, I don't think Bante's responding to the YouTube live chat.
Oh no, sorry.
Didn't mean to neglect anybody who joined online. Yeah.
And so Bante, would you like to finish with the dedication of merits before we close off?
Sure.
Yeah.
Instead, maybe what I'll do is we'll do a short chant to pay homage to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha.
Yes, that's great.
Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Great. That's all.
Thank you, Bante.
Yeah,
Thank
nice to see you.
Sadhu,
Yeah.
sadhu. Thank you, Bante. Thank you, everyone in person for coming, and thank you, everyone
Oh, we got a
online
bunch
for
here.
joining, for all your questions and wonderful interactions. So great to see all of you. And as always, we have our Monday sessions in Bankstown between 7 to 8:30, and also online. We have Tuesday yogas between 6:30 and 7:30. Wednesday, our meditation sessions are between 7 to 8:30 here in Parramatta, as well as online. And we have Senti Sundays, which are at the end of every month. We also have Metta Convention. So if you, unless if you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you've heard about it. We have Metta Convention between the 8th to 9th of November. Bante Joe is one of the speakers among many others. Sisi has very kindly posted a link to the convention, so please feel free to check it out. There will also be a big alms round of 15 monastics on the 10th of November, and where you get to pay respects, give dana, and also meet many of our spiritual friends in the same space. So yeah, make those days free and come and have very heart-filled, fun-filled days with all of you, all of us. So yeah, with that said, have a lovely week, and we'll see you soon, next week, if not
Great.
earlier.
Great. Bye, everybody. Nice to see you.
Bye.
Oh, and for data on YouTube, if you if I didn't see your question, but if you join the Discord server and ask it there, then I'll respond to it on Discord. Okay. Bye, everybody. How do we stop this? Just press the X. Oh, there we go.